Hi, I'm Cynthia Clark. As a soulmate palmist, I've discovered a system using hand analysis to identify your soulmate matches. Greater love is possible for you. There are 6 keys to soulmate attraction. There are 10 heart chambers in your hands that show you exactly what you need to heal. I can help you untangle dating confusion and work with the vibrational energy to change your vibration. True love exists for you if you claim it. Join me at loveinyourhands.com and find soulmate love fast. Thank you for tuning in to Love in Your Hands with Cynthia Clark, soulmate palmist, spiritual teacher, love coach, author, and speaker. We're sharing stories of love and connection and lessons learned along the way. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to ignite soulmate love fast using an innovative system to help you end loneliness and toxic relationships and elevate your vibrational energy to soulmate love and deeply compatible partners. Get started for free at loveinyourhands.com. And now here's your host, Cynthia Clark. Hi there, everyone. My name is Cynthia Clark, and I am your soulmate palmist and spiritual teacher. You can find me over at loveinyourhands.com. And I am really excited about today's episode. I'm so happy that you're here because, of course, life has more meaning when it is shared. And I love having the opportunity to speak to beautiful people just like you in the realm of love and relationships. And today we have a very special guest. Her name is Ardis Hoffman, and she is from Colorado. So welcome to the show, Ardis.
Thank you, Cynthia.
So thank you for volunteering your hands and letting us also learn a little bit about you and the relationships that you've had in your life. Really, the goal of this show is to help people understand themselves a little bit better and to also learn from everyone's experiences. So we're the longer you are here on the planet, obviously, the more experiences you get to have. And in the realm of relationships, it can be very eye-opening and some good and some not so good, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what would you like to share with us?
Sure. Thank you. So I am all about relationships. I feel like that's how we grow as a human being, is just through our relationships with others. I have been married 3 times, and my last marriage ended in 2006. And what I learned from that experience is that although people can be really nice and good friends, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're compatible life partners, and there's a difference. And so I kind of have been taking a break since then and learning more about myself and focusing on my relationships with my 2 kids who are now adults, and just learning about myself and what it really means to have a compatible situation with a romantic partner, and I just keep trying.
Well, good for you. Yeah, I love your spirit and your spunk and your excitement to grow and evolve. And that's terrific, because I think a lot of people, especially after 3 marriages, might just say, you know what, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
So you're not one of those people, though.
No, I've dated several different people since then, but chose different than what I did the first go around. But still that elusive partner is out there, and I know there's someone out there for me, and at some point it'll be the right time. So
absolutely. The timing is everything. And sometimes we do need to spend some time alone with ourselves in order to really understand who that person is and what is the value that you have as a person. So I actually consider the time in between relationships to be just as valuable as when you are in a relationship. So it can be and it can be necessary too, if you, especially if you have a breakup or a divorce, there's going to be some trauma that comes along with that, and you need to make sure that you go through that period of like, okay, I need to heal from whatever it was that happened.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Or realize the lessons that the relationship provided
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, there's a lot of judgment around the amount of time that
mhm.
people need to, like, oh wow, how some people just jump right into another marriage within a year, and then other people take 20 years before they get into one.
Mhm.
And ultimately, though, it is an individual kind of a thing, and everybody's on their own timeline, and we shouldn't judge people based upon how much time they had or didn't have between those
Right.
relationships,
Yeah.
because some people do process things faster, and sometimes there's that next relationship lined up for us already. So
Mhm.
it's different for everybody. So
Right. And I came from a family where you didn't live with people, before you got married. And now my mom says, well, if you had lived with them, you probably would have figured out they weren't the right ones. So it's like, well, I didn't see that as an option at the time.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
I grew up like that, where it was like, yeah, you don't move in with a person until you marry them. So it's like, well, yeah, there's quite a few things you don't learn about that
Right.
person when you're not actually living with them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
And my parents made relationships look so easy because, I never really observed them having differences or quarreling or anything. So I just thought you pick a nice person and there you go.
yeah, so that's a good point that you bring up, because yeah, we think that just because a person is nice, or just because a person is attractive, or just because a person has the same religious affiliation that we do, that they're a good match.
Right.
And the truth is that may or may not be true. Like
Exactly.
they may be compatible with you, but chances are, well, we need to dig deeper. And the way that we dig deeper, and the way that I dig deeper with people, is we look at their hands, because your hands are your mirrors to everything about you, who you are, how you think, how you feel, how you interact in the world. What do you, what are your potentials? What are your talents? What is your purpose? Your hands simply have a plethora of things to share with you. And one of the neatest things is that it actually tells you who you are most compatible with. It tells you your own relationship genius, and it also can help you understand where you might be out of balance, and maybe you need to heal something in order to come back into that balance. So I find the hands to be just the absolute best tool for anything to do with relationships. And of course, astrologers would argue with me. And I'm not discounting astrology, because I actually do feel like astrology is another amazing tool that can help you. And so is Chinese astrology. So I've actually brought in all three of those elements into the work that I currently do. But I still believe at the top of the list is the hands, because they are so personal, and they are ever changing, ever evolving too. So, so Ardis, I feel very fortunate to know you, because you've allowed me to actually track your hands over quite a number of years
Mm-hmm.
now, and to see the time lapses is so. To me, it's so interesting to see the evolution of your journey, and it's so much, there's just so much wealth of information there that can just help you in your life, and hopefully you feel that way as well.
Absolutely. That's why I keep coming back. I feel like there's really no other way that I have found to track your growth, to see where you're at, to see where you've been, and to kind of pat yourself on the back for all the work that you're doing to expand and become a more loving person. So I
Yeah.
love I love coming back almost every year on the dot. So
Yes, and the hands definitely do. It's amazing how much they can change, even in just a year. So
Mhm.
that's what's really amazing too. It's such a tool for empowerment.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I love helping people just understand that tool and what it has to share with you. So we're going to actually pull this up and take a look, and I'm going to be describing your hands, which is going to be really fun. And just bear with me here for a second. And for those of you watching the video, you'll actually get to see what Ardis's hand looks like. And for those of you just listening, I'm going to describe what it looks like so that uh, we have a clear picture here. Okay, so Ardis, your hand is what we call a lover's archetype. Which, by the way, this is not the most common archetype. Okay, so there's certain archetypes show up a little bit more often statistically than others. And this one I would say is kind of in the middle range as far as how often it shows up. It's not definitely not the most common, but it's also not the most rare. But I find this to be a beautiful hand. So the first thing to identify is that it is a fire hand, which we can tell by measuring out the middle finger, which we also call Saturn, relative to the palm. And we have short fingers relative to the palm, and that's how we know the first measurement. The second measurement comes through the length of the palm versus the width, and we look at it in terms of, is it square or is it rectangular? And in your case, you've got a rectangular palm. You're much longer than you are wide. We measure from the middle finger all the way down to the wrist, and then we measure from the edge of the thumb to the percussion, which is the outer edge of the hand. So short fingers, rectangular palm. This is a fire hand. And so fire hands tend to be the types who are enthusiastic and passionate. And I'm not surprised that you would want to get into relationships because you're also a lovers. So the lovers is where we see that the middle finger is your dominant finger. And how we know that, of course, everybody's middle finger is usually the longest, but we look at it relative to the other fingers next to it. So because your middle finger, it's not only like super straight, but it also towers above the fingers next to it. So that's how we can see that you are a lover's archetype. So your relationship genius is actually relationships themselves. It's like you understand the law of union, you understand the value of coming together in a relationship. And this can apply not only to your romantic relationships, but also to all of your relationships. So you would be somebody who would be really good to collaborate with, to bring in different types of people, different groups of people. You can also work with individuals and help them to see their own value. That's something that you bring to the table. So that's a beautiful thing of the lovers. So in your work situations, do you think that you've had the opportunities to help people over the years?
Yeah, so I mostly ended up in administration and management, and so I supervised, hired, coached people. So yeah, definitely, it's all about relationships with others and making sure that they have what they need to be effective at what they're doing. So
Mm,
definitely, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And the other,
Always really good at hiring people too. I always seem to
mm,
know, what what the right person was for the right job. So,
Yeah, and that comes through in your lover's archetype. You're very balanced in your masculine and your feminine energies. So there's an instinctiveness that comes through you, and that's the feminine kind of yin energy, the receptive energy, and then the yang energy is you're able to give that outward. So
mm,
yeah, I can definitely see how you'd be good at identifying just not only what a person's talents are naturally, but you can also kind of see where they fit best
hmm,
in terms of the group. Okay, so as the whole, because it ultimately comes back to the whole for you.
right.
So yeah, that's a really great gift that you have just from your hand shape. And by the way, everybody who's listening, your hand shape forms by the time you are about 6 years old. And so this energy is with you for the rest of your life. So when you think about being a little child, you are just absorbing everything around you. And then you are turning into this person who you will become. And this
Mm,
will be the energy that you have to offer for the rest of your life. So it's actually really amazing to think of your hands this way. So this is what we refer to as the archetype. It's a set of subconscious influences, a set of traits that you carry with you from a very young age. And it's just beautiful. I think it's beautiful. So this is a beautiful lover's hand that we're looking at and that I'm describing to you for those listening. So the soulmate match, and this is where it gets kind of fun too, is we can look at, okay, so you have a fire hand. Your soulmate match is actually going to be an air hand because air feeds the fire. Okay, so an air hand is going to be somebody with long fingers and a square palm. It'll be the exact opposite shape as what you have
mm,
in terms of what the hand looks like. So it's going to be a much shorter hand, wide and long fingers. And by the way, I looked up your soulmate match just to see some famous people who you would be well suited to. This is kind of fun. I've analyzed a lot of famous hands over the years, just
mm,
mostly in pictures and finding them online. But in your case, we want to match up with that air hand, which is somebody who's very curious and somebody who is just that open-mindedness, which a lover's needs, and also somebody strong in their Jupiter finger or their index finger. Okay, so the index finger, how you know if it's strong is it'll be longer than the ring finger. Okay, when you put those two
okay.
fingers together. So that would be your best match. And we call that the strength archetype. And the strength archetype is somebody who is not only open-minded, but they have a big vision of what's possible.
Mm,
The reason why they need you is because you help to kind of bring in those ideas and you can help direct them. You can help bring the balance of that masculine and feminine energy, whereas sometimes a strength archetype can be a little bit too, I would say, more on the yin side. They see the vision, but they don't necessarily know how to get the vision out there.
mm.
So, okay, so a famous person who is a strength archetype is the Dalai Lama.
I don't think he's available.
I don't think he's available either, but I was going to say it might actually be kind of fun for you to actually study some of his philosophies and maybe um, some of his just what is he sharing with the world. So the Dalai Lama, obviously he's way too old for you, first of all.
That's it.
That's really the only problem.
The only problem.
Anyway, I thought that was really kind of interesting.
Hmm.
But it's also about tapping into that energy, right? So when we think about, okay, well, who am I compatible with on a soulmate level? And can I tap into their energy? And we have a thing in quantum physics called quantum entanglement, right? And so if we're struggling to find balance in our own life, you can actually connect to that complementary energy, even if it's just etherically, like if it, you know, you don't even have to be in the same room with the Dalai Lama, for example,
Hmm.
but you can connect to his energy. And just by connecting to his energy, it can actually balance you as a lover's archetype. So that's something to think about. So
Hmm.
it's actually really good to know who are some famous people who have your soulmate match archetype, right? So,
Okay.
so anyway, I thought he would be just a positive one to share. So, but yeah, so strength archetypes, they tend to be just that loving kindness kind of energy. You know, they're very, like I said, a little bit more yin or passive, because that air tends to be more in the realm of thought, and you're the one who can kind of bring it more into the physical. So
Okay.
that's what you bring to the table.
Hmm.
Now, just looking at your hands too, you do have some remarkable things going on, which I kind of like to point out. So first of all, your headline is really quite remarkable. You've got this really long headline. So for people who don't know about the headline, it is the line that goes straight across your hands. It is a major line in the hands, and it represents the way that you think. Okay, now you have a talented way of thinking. So, Ardis, you are what we call an octopus brain. Okay, so that's somebody who just has 8 different things going on, and you need to challenge that brain of yours. So I would actually say that this, again, the air person is so good for you, because they embody kind of that energy, with even regardless of what their headline looks like,
Hmm.
because they're naturally in the realm of thinking and thought and challenging their brain, right? So I would say that's, but if you find somebody with a long headline like the one that you have, then you know that, oh, this person thinks like I do. So you can
Hmm.
kind of identify, does this person think like me or not? You can actually verify it right through the hands. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about maybe some of your past relationships. So, let's talk about your marriages. Is there something that, like, have you noticed patterns through your 3 marriages that you've encountered, that you know, what type of person have you attracted into your life?
Yeah, I would say that what they all had in common is that they were all kind of very fun, easygoing individuals with not much direction or ambition, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just yeah, and very, very creative, very out of the box thinking, but
Mm,
very, very non-traditional in their choices for work, or just even how they interacted. Very loner types.
mm.
Should have been a clue, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
But
it sounds
yeah.
to me like the people you've attracted were actually what we would call the Apollonian, as opposed to the Jupiterian. Okay. So yeah, your soulmate match is Jupiterian. That's the strength archetype. But if we take a look at your Apollo finger, now this is not your strong finger. So sometimes you will attract a partner who is stronger in an area where you might be weak.
Hmm.
And you've also got a little bit of an indent in your own Apollo finger. This is actually a very, very common indicator in the hands, and we call it the black sheep indicator. Okay, so you feel like, I don't quite fit in with everybody else.
Hmm.
And I would say, you know, that's actually not a bad thing. Sometimes
Hmm.
we do need to kind of be an individual, and you're very strong actually in your upper phalange of Apollo, which is the zone of individuality. So yeah, I can see how you would be attracted to an individual, and somebody who maybe brings that energy in even stronger than you do, and
Hmm.
helps you to feel like, well, I'm included in this partnership. So, you know, I can feel Like I don't, it's almost like us against the world kind of energy.
Right.
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 So, which is not necessarily what you want in a soulmate partner, right?
Mm-mm.
But in terms of an attraction, I can definitely see where that attraction came in. So yeah, so moving forward, I would say, okay, that's good maybe to have in terms of a friendship. Like you were saying at the beginning, that's not necessarily your soulmate match. You want to find somebody with that strong Jupiter finger, which is more of a leader type person, but more in that very gentle way of leadership, especially with the air combination. So, and they have that bigger vision of what's possible. And so that would just be my recommendations for you in terms of a partnership.
Well, you'll be looking at the hand of anybody that gets to that point. I believe you me.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's just so amazing how the hands just they just talk. They just can tell you, what you need to do. So another thing that I would just recommend for you right now, since you're not in a relationship right now, of course, this is the time to work on yourself. And,
Mhm.
Every in between relationship, that's what I recommend for people, is that they work on themselves, they build up their own identities, they build up their own authenticness, all of that good stuff is what we want to focus on. And so again, we look at like, okay, well, what might be a little stressed in your hand, and a stress doesn't mean a weakness. Okay, so I like to point that out as well, because your hands, remember, they can change. And so a stress is simply something that's like, oh, okay, yeah, I should focus on that right now in my life. And of course,
Mhm.
the fiery energy always needs to have activities going on. So if you don't have activities going
Mhm.
on, you're really not going to be very happy.
That's so true.
Okay, so that's
Mhm.
really, really key for you. And fire types also need to they need to be able to get excited about something. So they got to get, in other words, fired up about something. It's like, what fires you up?
Mhm.
And in your case, you've got a little bit of stress coming in right here in your Luna mount, which is your area of receiving. So I would say right now for you, it's time for you to receive. It's time for you to welcome in whatever the universe wants to bring you that gets you fired up and excited.
Mm.
And, that, of course, as a lovers, is the people that you are around, the people that you interact with every day. So that's going to be your kids. And isn't your daughter going to have a baby pretty soon?
Yes. Yes, in a month. So, yep.
Yeah. So I actually consider this a really positive experience that's about to happen in your life,
Mhm.
because you're going to be busy with that little baby, and you'll be able to receive all that unconditional loving energy from that baby, which is so beautiful, because we haven't learned as babies, we haven't learned to withhold love. Right.
Yeah.
Little babies are just all about love.
Mhm.
And so I think that'll be really positive, and it'll probably bring this energy up here in your Luna mount, and your receiving energy. So
Great.
I think that'll be the perfect thing for you for right now.
Wonderful.
So, yay.
Yay.
Yeah. So, okay. So, do you have any, before we, close up or wrap up, do you have any questions that you might want to ask, either about yourself or your potential partner or anything like that?
No, I think you covered it really well. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, everybody out there listening or watching, just realize that your hands can help you understand all about who you are. They can help guide you in making better decisions in your life. And they absolutely are tangible tools. And
Mhm.
if and you can just make better decisions based upon what's there. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Remember that life has more meaning when it is shared. And thank you, Ardis, for coming on the show. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Cynthia. I appreciate you too. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to Love in Your Hands. Please rate, review, and subscribe to show your support. Have a question for Cynthia? Just post a comment. This podcast is sponsored by loveinyourhands.com, the place to find soulmate love fast. Start your free Soul Connection membership today, upload your hand photo, discover your relationship archetype, and start finding soulmate matches. Just go to loveinyourhands.com to get started.